Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming,
Hey, this is Heath with Team Table War Hawaii.
and welcome to the Path to Redemption, the Dark Angels podcast, or I guess the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our aim is to provide Dark Angels players with the tactical and hobby skills that they need in order to compete and enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. Alright, so this week we're going to look at some new releases, some things that are up on pre-order, although they didn't really go on pre-order, so we'll talk about that. In Meta Watch, we didn't have a lot of major events outside of LVO, and there wasn't a Goonhammer article this month yet that I found, so we're just going to talk about the Highlander event I played in yesterday. I got some good details. In our featured segment, Heath and I are going to go over some beginners Dark Angels list using Tabletop Simulator, or TTS. Should be pretty cool. We're going to take a look at our hobby challenge, see if we cleared out, in our New Year's resolution hobby challenge, see if we cleared out anything. Maybe look at maybe you consider it controversial, maybe not, potential. I don't know if he's looked at the show notes yet on the next month's support. You can take a look at that. Maybe
I saw that. I'm down to get down. I'm down.
Right, well,
I'm down to get down.
We'll get to that.
But we'll talk about it when we get there. Yeah.
And then we have a lot of community interaction, so we actually have to save some time for that segment because a lot of people chimed in on the Charlie Andre interview, which was awesome. It's one of our most popular things we've ever done.
I think it was I think it was a good. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. I kind of had a suspicion, and this turned out to be true, that when you actually get a top player, in front of you and say, "Hey, how do you play this? What do you think?" What they're thinking is completely contrary to the traditional wisdom, and that really held out when we got Charlie talking about how his Terminator list plays out. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and take a look at it. It's really worth it. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Oh yeah. All right, so new releases. There's some new McFarlane miniatures coming out, or models coming out. It was, I think, I was looking at their website. You have to go through Amazon to get it, but the Reaver, just the gray Reaver that you can paint whatever color you want, that's going to be out soon. It's up for pre-order on Amazon for $19.99. And looking at some of the suggested buys down at the bottom on Amazon, the Hell Blaster is worth almost $31 now, and trying to get the OG Intercessor artist proof is $80 as an offer on Amazon. So if you really, really like this, the pre-painted Ultramarine Sky is $70. If you really like the McFarlane models and you want the Space Marine guy, get on the pre-order train, because if you miss it, it's going to get expensive fast, it looks like. And then on top of that, there was Amazon is also offering us Warhammer 40,000 Risk. I don't know if you saw that, Heath.
Oh, I like Risk. I do like Risk.
So you can get a 40K themed Risk game. That's $49.99. That's also on pre-order. Because this was supposed to be, they have an article on Warhammer Community about it, but when you click on the links to go do the pre-order, the links don't work. They're all dead, which is really, really sad. But they've got the box, they've got a little map, they got the cards, they got some little mini guys. So it's a Vigilus themed. So we've got you got a Baden on the cover, you got Black Legion guys. It's just literally all Black Legion all over the cover, and some Ultramarine guys. Of course, they're the favorite children.
Yeah, the poster boys.
So
yeah.
Did you see the event exclusive? They've announced the event exclusive since the last podcast for the 2022 year. I'm assuming this guy's will be in that $40, $50 range probably. Single character. He's a champion, a chapter champion, a Primaris one, and he's got a cloak, and he's got the laureled helmet. He's got his sword, his power sword. He's going to hold it two hands, getting ready to stab somebody.
It's a unique pose. And the tabard really means I think that you can Dark Angel them up pretty good. I'm looking at it right now. There doesn't appear to be a lot of there's not really any Ultramarine iconography. So you replace that laureled helmet, and you're in business. You can do some cool stuff with this. This will be a great. This will actually also be a really nice way to bring some variation to your Blade Guard veterans.
Oh yeah,
I think. Or potentially an Assault Intercessor Sergeant. But I could get my hands on this. I could see that.
Alright. Now this last thing in the new releases is kind of old releases, and this is probably not going. Sadly, based on the time, the day of recording is the day this is happening. So just be aware that going forward, the Dark Angels chapter master, and I think there was one. No, I think it must just be him. Model that where he's got like the big robe over one shoulder and he's holding his sword kind of by the handle planted in the ground. That guy is going away.
Yeah, the old company master.
Yep. He
Well,
is now,
not permanently. It's a range rotation, so it'll be like he'll come back at some point in the future, but we don't know when.
Yeah, he'll be like a made to order.
It's a good model. It's been. Yeah, this is a. I don't even know if it's gonna be made to order or if it's gonna be. If it's gonna be just they'll be out of production for a while. I mean, like GW maintains like a couple thousand SKUs, which is a lot for logistics and inventory purposes. So it makes sense. And honestly, I think most people probably already have this guy. So I understand, and it'll be a really good. It'll be a good way to let them free up some logistical headroom to bring some new stuff in. And once again, you can always get on the secondary market, or you can convert your own.
Yep. Converting is one of my favorites. Alright, so that's what I had for new releases. So for MetaWatch, guess it's some time to shine.
Actually, if you want, the Cherokee Open is currently in its final hours right now.
Yeah, let's talk
and
about that.
I went and I looked up the... so the top placed Dark Angel player that I have been able to find, once again, I could be wrong. I was wrong about Charlie. This is last month. I improperly stated that he was in the shadow round. That was not true. So I need to issue a correction on that. 14th overall is outstanding, but it's not shadow round. So my bad. But Mr. Nick Morin placed 53rd out of I think 170, which is quite respectable. His placing, so he won the first two, lost the second two, won the last two. With 4 wins, 409 battle points. His first 2 wins were an 87 and a 99, right? And his third round was 20. We got a 20. And that third round was against Mr. Scott Ferguson. With Custodes, right? Just looking at that list real quick. This looks to be the Emperor's Chosen, a bunch of Alaris, a bunch of Virtus Praetors, and a couple of Prosecutors for Shields of Silence. But so that's what happened there. But his list is mixed Deathwing and Ravenwing. So I have a Deathwing Vanguard attachment with Azrael, who's the Warlord.
Okay.
And then 2 Deathwing Command Squads, Thunderhammer, Storm Shield. And then 5 Deathwing Knights. Okay. Always like to see the Deathwing Knights. And then a Deathwing Terminator Squad with 2 Storm Shields, a Chain Fist, and 2 sets of Lightning Claws. And then 5 Relic Terminators with Combi Bolters and Lightning Claws.
There they are.
So that's the first attachment. So OBSEC Terminators and Deathwing Knights, which are a mean damage output. If you want to know how to play those, once again, go back and listen to the last episode we had with Charlie. You will be enlightened from the stratagem that he provides. All right, so the second attachment is an Outrider detachment. So this is a Ravenwing Outrider detachment. So I've got 2 Talon Masters, one of which has Rights of War, one of which has the Arbiter's Gaze. Then I've got the Ravenwing Apothecary, not a Chief Apothecary, just an Apothecary. That saves you 30-something points and a CP. And 2 squads of Multi-Melta Attack Bikes. Then a squad of bikes, just regular bikes. So 3 chain swords, and the Sergeant has a chain sword. And then another squad of bikes with chain swords. So these are 2 squads of 4 bikes. This is a 120-point unit. So it's got
no attack bike in it either.
No attack bike in it. Just a chain sword. So basically 4 guys with chain swords, and 4 twin bolt guns. They're going to be good at moving up and doing move blocking. 4 is a little too low to probably be reliable enough to count on getting Knockman data with it. but you can give it a shot. But they're definitely OBSEC, and they'll sit on your backfield and hold an objective for sure. There, so yeah, so it's a lot of OBSEC, a lot of sneaky OBSEC, and
Yep.
a lot of stuff that's hard to kill in those Deathwing Knights. I can once again, I don't play at this level of the game, but I think I can see why he would have an issue with that custodes list. That's all those just Alaris Terminators, because
Yeah, there's
there's
no.
no range. There's not really a lot of range shooting in here other than those two multi-melt attack bikes. And
Yeah,
when you set up with the multi-melt attack bikes, the custodes have a lot of ways to mitigate damage,
yep.
which is really frustrating. So
Yep.
there are ways to get around that with Dark Angels. So like they have the custodes have a stratagem that lets you, or that makes you, they ignore your rerolls, right? So if they use Emperor's Auspice, you don't get rerolls against that unit,
Ouch.
which is bad. And they have a transhuman stratagem, which works on bikes and infantry. And they have, if they're Shadow Keepers, they have a -1 strength for shooting attack stratagem. So all those things combined, and you can really shoot into a trap that is their those bikes. Um, so the Dark Angels Green Wing has some tools to help fix that. And so if you have a bunch of plasma, if you stand still, you get +1 to hit. That kind of negates the need for rerolls. So Emperor's Auspice isn't as impactful, but they're going to transhuman against it. So okay, you just got to take that into factor. And being able to pump something up to 4 damage, like a Macroplasma Incinerator on a Redemptor, or your Ravenwing Landspeeder Vengeance,
Yep.
getting up to 4
Plasma
damage
battery.
is a really, really good way to, yeah, Plasma Battery is a really good way to hurt Alaris Terminators. So, yeah, um, this list, I think he just said, I don't know what his plan was for custodes, uh, but it apparently did not work. So,
That's too bad.
Mr. Morin, if you happen to listen to the podcast, please let us know. I'd love to hear about your experience.
Oh yeah, we'd love to have you on. All right. So have you ever played a Highlander format before, Heath?
I have, but it's been a number of years,
I think we
like
talked.
probably 15. So
Oh boy. I think we talked about it on
it's been a
on the
minute.
podcast last year because I went and did the same event
We
last
did.
year.
Hmm.
Uh, Definitely changed up the list,
Okay.
and this month's hobby track helped, or hobby project helped, because the Terminators I needed, I got them done. So oops, there's a little bit of a giveaway, but I needed them for this event. This is the first time I've played any sort of 9th edition game where all my models were painted to satisfaction, where I actually got the 10 points for being painted. So
Well, that's good.
that was exciting on a hobby side. We are going to do something kind of fun here. We're going to jump into Tabletop Simulator, I think, here,
Yeah.
and take a look at this list. So here is the list I got here. Take a look at it. So my warlord was this chaplain guy here. I ran him as the interrogator chaplain. He was the master of sanctity. He had the Teeth of Terra. He had Paragon of the chapter. So he had Emperor's Sword and Watched, because I expected to see Thousand Suns and Grey Knights and a few Eldar players, like getting prepped for the book to come out. So I just wanted to have that kind of stuff in the back pocket, or if somebody tried to null zone me, because the last time I went to an event up in Knox at Vorpal Gaming, somebody gave me the null zone hammer, and I really didn't like it, and I wanted to be prepared for it.
Especially with all these Terminators I'm looking at. Yeah, null zone's something you need to be prepared
Yeah.
against.
And then if you move your bikes, right, they
Yeah.
all get, they have jinx, so they turn the null zone off on those, which I didn't want that either. So what else is... the prayers. He had the Litany of Hate, so he had the rerolls in combat. Gave him the Canticle of Hate, so he had +2 to charge. And most importantly, and this is what I got from Charlie, most importantly, the additional inches to consolidate and pile in. And I did take Mantra of Strength, but I never used it because I was using the other two too much. So instead of trying to play Hero Hammer, I tried to play Tactical Strategy Hammer, and I was very impressed. So I'm going to start doing that a lot more. going into the future. Then I had a Talon Master
Okay.
that had Rights of War and the Arbiter's Gaze, since I only had one. Because it's Highlander, you can only have 0 to 1 of anything or any one data sheet
Other than
unless it's
troops, right?
troops or dedicated
Yeah.
transport. So that's why I have 2 Incursor squads over here to go with my Infiltrators. So 1 Incursor, 2 Incursor, and then Min squad of Infiltrators. I had to only could bring 1 Talon Master, so I had to soup him up with everything, which ended up being kind of a pain, which I'll get into. Then a Chief Apothecary on bike with the Selfless Healer, so I could bring people back. Then full attack bike squad with multi-meltas. Then to try and get another attack bike, I ran the full squad of regular bikes, and I would combat squad them. So like these 3 would deploy separately, and I'd put the sergeant in this squad.
So I thought regular bikes, they go to like 8, not 6.
Oh well, I had the points and the models to do 6, so
Okay.
that's how it worked out for me. So maybe it wasn't full squad. I have old information, but I ran 2 3-mans, and I had attack bike, then 2 normal bikes, and the sergeant and 2 bikes, and then they all had chain swords, so that way they'd have more attacks. Because you don't need a bolt pistol; they have bolters already. You want to get those extra attacks in combat and the -1 AP.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Yeah.
And then in the Terminator squads, I followed Andre's bit. I ran 3 Terminator guys with Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, including the Sergeant, and then 2 Lightning Claws. And then these were the Assault Terminator sheet, so they had the Teleport Homer. I paid for that. Then I had a regular squad with the Cyclone Missile Launcher, then just standard Power Fist and Storm Bolter. Sergeant had the Power Sword. They were also had the Teleport Homer.
Okay.
And then I had to get them out. This is such an off-meta tournament. I thought, I can pay the premium for Deathwing Knights. I love them. I have a bunch of customized models that I can't show because I'm using TTS, but I have some fun ones where I did head swaps and things, and I just wanted to play with them, so I did. And finally, Plasma Inceptors. These were
you got to have crowd control. Yeah.
Got to
have crowd control.
And I needed them. Definitely needed them in the round 2 matchup. So I'm going to pop back real quick so I can take a look at my notes.
Okay.
Because I tried to take good notes this time around. And if you want to see like sort of the play-by-play on some of this, I did post pictures and deployment pictures and endgame pictures on the Dankless Wargaming Facebook page, so you can go take a look at that if you really want.
All right, cool.
So round 1, it was the Scouring mission, and I was playing a Drukhari Eldar list. So it was really goofy because they weren't playing Ynnari. It was just an Eldar.
So just like one detachment of Craft World and a detachment of Drukhari.
Yeah.
So what was more? Was it more Drukhari, I assume, and then like Craft World for fire support with like fire prisms or support batteries?
Yeah, there were the support batteries, Dire Avengers and Wave Serpents, 2 of those, a Wraith Seer, a Spirit Seer, a Far Seer, Warp Spiders, Squad of Banshees, Incubi in the Little Venom, Witches and a Succubus in the Raider. And he reserved or deep struck the Raider and the Wave Serpent with... So he had some Dire Avengers and Deep Strike in the Wave Serpent, and then he had some Witches and a Succubus and a Raider and Deep Strike that he was going to try and pop in on me.
What weapons did he take on the support batteries? Were they the D cannons for the indirect fire, or like the vibro cannons?
Yep.
D cannons.
Yep.
Ugh. D cannons are terrifying. Okay. All right. So what objectives did you take?
So I took the Receive Knockmoon Data, Oaths of the Moment, and Engage in All Fronts.
Okay.
And the key to this,
I can see this list doing well on that.
Is that this game only went to turn 3, so I was playing Rich. He was the guy I played the ATC tournament with. He was the Eldar teammate I had, and I know we were just kind of hanging out, and I didn't feel like we were wasting time. It's just it took time, and there was, when fighting happened, there was a lot of dice getting thrown, so that was part of it. To me, some of the big key moments of this game is turn 2. He ran his Incubi. He overcommitted, in my opinion, and opened a gap for me that I think he should have just done one of these 2 things instead of both. On turn 2, he charged his Incubi into my Deathwing guys, and
Okay.
then he charged his witches. They came in out of Deep Strike on one of my flanks, and they tried to attack my combated squatted bike squad that had the attack bike in it. And he got them both off. And then he chose to use the Incubi to fight first. And
Okay. I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, he killed one of the Terminators and wounded another one.
And then you interrupt
fought
kill
the
the
witches,
witches.
ran away. And then he decided to pile in and consolidate the witches towards the closest enemy unit, which were my incursors behind line of sight blocking terrain. And because he didn't declare them as a charge target, he didn't actually get to fight them, but they got to fight him. And
and
they threw a lot of dice.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
And then on my
incursors are really good for that.
And then it was my turn, and I was still in tactical, so I used fire discipline for once, and shot most of the rest of the witches, and then knifed them at the end. And then the Incubi, I went back to the Deathwing Terminators, and they picked up all the Incubi, and then moved 6 inches on the Consolidate, because I'd gotten my prayers off previously, and moved into the middle of the board so I could start scoring oaths.
Yeah, I think that's that's a common trap, is like, if you're with Eldar, is if you're gonna charge multiple units, then you need to make sure that like the order in which they activate is very important, because witches have a hard time surviving getting hit first. Even though they have a 4-pinball save, they're toughness 3. So yeah, Incubi, like, I definitely see why he's going against the Terminators first, because Terminators are going to shred Incubi with one wound and toughness 3. They just don't have the ability to survive fighting Terminators. But so you basically neutered his close combat power and picked up. Well, I guess he's got Banshees, but still, like, he's going to rely on those Incubi to do a lot of work, right? So,
well, and I think, where did the Banshees came in too? I think they charged the Terminators. They charged me turn 1, and I don't remember how I killed them, but that was where I got to. I killed them with 1 unit, but they were in combat with several. So when the other units got to activate, I just got to move 12, because I had the additional 3 inches of pylon and consolidate. So I just moved 12 inches with Terminators in one phase and went, that felt dirty.
Hey.
But it was amazing. And I was like, this is what Charlie was telling us. This is amazing. Why would I ever not do this ever again? It's super good about it.
Yeah.
And
towards the end of 8th edition, I was, after our supplement and ritual of the damned, and we had priests, and I would do that with Deathwing Terminators, and all right, +3 to pile in, +3 to consolidate. My Deathwing Terminators are going to touch everything. And you were gonna, by God, you're gonna know that you've been knocked. So, were you able to use the Ravenwing Apothecary to bring a guy back and
heal him up?
So when you bring a guy back, he doesn't have to come back where he was. He comes back in coherency, which means within 2 inches. So you put 1 millimeter of his base within 2 inches, and the other and the model closer to where you want to go. So effectively, you're giving yourself 1.9 inches plus the width of that 40 millimeter base, which is another 1.5 inches. So basically you get 3.5 inches of free movement by resurrecting a model. So honestly, killing one Terminator is the worst thing you can do, because you're basically giving them +4 inches on their charge that will stack with whatever other bonuses to charge they get. So, yeah. And that works really well with Deathwing Terminators.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because they're so hard to kill. But yeah.
So, and then I guess one of the other big ones is that I was able to, because he only had 1 squad of dudes on the board, Dire Avengers on the board, screening his characters. He had an Azurman too, so he had Azurman and the Farseer and the Spirit Seer. So I managed to use the bikes on the other side to kind of clear out with their bolters the Dire Avengers, which then I opened up the Meltas, and later because the Meltas, I think they shot one of his tanks, and then the second turn they were able to start targeting characters, and my Talon Master was able to fly in because he had an angle and there weren't enough models there to screen for them anymore, and he popped in and just started unloading assault cannons and heavy bolters into Eldar characters, and there was the sort of in the last turn what. If we continued on, it was going to be a blowout. Was where I managed to get Deathwing Terminators, my Apothecary with the Reliquary of the Repentant. I did have that on him as well,
Hmm.
and the Talon Master. Like just they all landed on top of the Fire Seer and Azure Man in the last couple of models he had in that area of the board, and he picked them all up, and
I'm
at that point he had his Wraith Seer still, he had a Raider with a Succubus and some of his support vehicle or his support cannons, and I had most of my army, and I was just going to run around and kill him.
I'm glad you brought up the Reliquary of the Repentant. I think it is the way the meta's changed in the last month or so since Custodes came out, and with Eldar coming out next week, the Reliquary of the Repentant is more important than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Debuffing 4-up saves to 5-ups. Used to be you didn't see a lot of 4-up saves unless it was like someone was running around with Storm Shields, but now Custodes, huge in the meta, they're everywhere. Eldar, that Avatar, people are going to take that freaking Avatar. Phoenix Lords,
Well, and they're
there's a
going to
lot of
cast
4-up,
Protect on them and give them.
and they're going to
a
cast
3-up.
Protect on them. So the fact that you can have that guy that doesn't need to cast, can't be interacted with, it's just you get within 3 inches of me and you lose, and you're down to a 5. It's gonna be something that you want to do. So
Yeah.
it's an important tool. It is an important tool for us.
All right, so that
Okay.
ended up. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Were you able to score engage with the Terminators, or did you do the bikes with that?
I used the bikes to do that, but by the end of turn 3, I had enough stuff in 3/4 that I was getting little engage every turn, and I had enough
Okay.
stuff in every area that it was just going to be that way the rest of the game.
Okay. right.
And so that ended up being 49-41. The funny thing here is I thought it was a tie when I started adding up the score, and then because I forgot to put my primary score in from turn 2, so I ended up winning by 8, and I was like, oh, I feel dumb. I can't math.
Yeah, maths. Okay.
Math
Well,
hard.
good on you.
Appreciate it.
Good on
Thank
you.
you.
That's a tough. That can be a tough matchup. So
Then went into round 2, which is Sacred Sanctuaries. Now, this was against a Necron player. This I thought was going to be brutal. So I got really mad at Chris is the TO, and I got fake mad at Chris because I looked at the rules for Sacred Sanctuaries. You're not allowed to do any pregame moves, and you're not allowed to deploy infiltrators of any kind in this mission. Anybody. So there was no forward deploying
Yep.
with all my Phobos. There was no hunting with bikes. And I was like, are you kidding me? My army is completely not cool now. And then this guy's Necron list was like 50 warriors, which I was like, ooh, that's not cool. That's scary. He had the Void Dragon, Doom Scythe, Doomsday Arc, and then he had various characters supporting them and some Scorpec Destroyers.
one thing to remember about Void Dragon is even though he's a character with less than 9 wounds, Void Dragon specifically has a rule. All the Catan shards do that you can target them. Like Lookout Surge does not apply to them. So that's very important to remember. Yeah, that is very important to remember about those Catan shards because you got to start chunking wounds off them early.
Yep.
If you're gonna have any chance, especially if you don't have a psychic phase.
Yep.
Unless you have a psychic phase, there's no way you can kill one in one turn. It's just not possible. But between if they charge you, you do 3 wounds, and then your turn, you do 3 wounds in the shooting phase, 3 wounds in the assault phase. or fight phase. Then it's definitely doable.
Right.
But about No Man's Land, the usual Necron build is everything is OBSEC and everything gets a 6-inch pregame move. So that kind of hoses them too. So they can't move. They can't move out into the center of the board on turn 1 either. But
Yeah, and that was the thing, because I took secondaries to just give him the middle of the board, because this is one where if you sit in the middle of the board, you get a bunch of primary points in that new secondary primary objective. And I just kind of looked at this and went, because the way the terrain was, you couldn't sit on one objective and see any other objective without having to move. Like, it was a lot of line of sight blocking terrain, so you had to really move. So I thought, well, I'll just give him the middle of the board. It was kind of open, let him score those, and I'm just going to go hide on the corners and get points that way. So I took Stubborn Defiance, which was risky, and because the OBSEC came from the Talon Master, and all you had to do was get more OBSEC bodies when he has 50 warriors on top of my objective, and things don't happen. And then my Talon Master really couldn't go anywhere because he had to be next to the Deathwing Knights, or the guys I picked, so that way I could actually score this objective. And I'll get into how that worked out in a minute. Took Knockmoon again, and then I took to the last, which was my bike squad, the bigger bike squad with the one attack bike, the Deathwing Knights, and then interestingly, the Terminator squad with the Cyclone missile launcher, and not the close combat one, because you lose the points reduction for having the lightning clauses so much compared to like a regular Terminator.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
I like the choice of putting the Deathwing Knights as your Stubborn Defiance objective. It's counterintuitive because you think, man, these guys got to be up front knocking heads in. But in this case, I think that if you had picked your infiltrators or your incursors to be it, then that Doom Scythe and the Doomsday Arc would have just aced them.
yep.
So I think that's a good call, especially because like, hey, you have to interact with Deathwing Knights. Best of luck with that.
Yep.
Or this Talon Master who's a character. Best of luck with that. So, and if you pick them back, like if you can prevent him from getting to you,
Yep.
then yeah, there's no guarantee he's gonna be able to get all those warriors to you. I assume you had a Veil of Darkness.
He did.
But if you deploy your infiltrators and your curses right, you can screen them out. So,
Yep.
no worries.
Yep, and then the fun thing here is I put the bikes, the attack bike squad in strategic reserve, and this is so Chris has been on me about being super aggressive with my bikes, getting them all killed in one turn.
I have the same problem. I 100% have the same problem.
So this, so boys and girls in the Dark Angels community, this was probably my favorite play of the whole tournament, and I think it's what won me the game because there's this, and then my Assault Terminator squad I think did two things that won me the game because it scared the living daylights out of this guy. He was a very new player, and I think if he didn't understand the matchup as well as I thought he did, and I was able to scare him with these two plays here that kept him away. Like those warriors didn't get to the middle of the board until turn 4. The Satan did not move into the middle of the board until turn 4.
That's a big misplay. Yeah.
He was very, very scared of my army when I didn't think he should have been. And this is one of those things where like he was asking me questions. I'm like, well, you can do this and you can do that. But I wasn't like, hey, man, move your army forward and kill me. Like you have 20 guys with 40 shots. You'll just those will pick up the Terminators if you try hard enough. But
yeah. The killing power in Necrons is in those warriors and those Strength 5 AP2 Assault 2 guns. It's really especially did he have a Chronomancer to give him a 5-up invul save?
Yeah, he had one of those somewhere. He had a Chronomancer of some kind and a Royal Warden and an Overlord, and he had some sort of special item on the Chronomancer that let him zap me from really far. It was like a super cannon kind of thing, but there was only one shot.
Yeah, I don't remember what that's called. It's a relic. There's a relic like Staff of Light or something that does that. Yeah.
I also don't know if he understood that he could shoot all the guns on his Doomsday Arc because he kept using this like 20 gun shot profile. But now that I think about it, those are the side guns, but he has a big gun. Those are the flare arrays, right?
Yeah. So that thing's got the big penis cannon
like,
on it.
Get out of here gun. The pick up your toys and no fun for you gun.
Yeah. The F around and find out gun. It's I mean, it could be. Did he maybe played the previous edition where you basically had to pick what gun you shot? But or he just didn't have a viable target for it.
Well, right, and then another thing too. I think also he asked me some other questions about like how do you rule this? How do you rule that? I guess in his friends community sometimes, they kind of play a certain way, and if you're not on top of what people call things like this terrain is this and this is that. We're not playing the building. We're playing the footprint. Like if you don't start the game and say this is how we're playing, you'll find out that based on convenience, the rules will change in the game. And so, I think that's where maybe someone hasn't bothered to tell him in his community that that's how that worked, and I didn't realize.
Ladies and gentlemen,
until now that was probably. Because I was like, that thing shot at me.
Follow the procedure.
Yeah.
The procedure requires you to define the terrain with keywords before the game begins. Follow the procedure.
But the big plays where I had those spikes in reserve. The Doom Scythe came up. It shot at something. I don't remember what was over there. I think I shot at some of my bikes and killed one of them. And so on my turn, I moved the bikes back, moved my Talon Master over there where it could see it, pop targeting guidance, so I got +1 to hit against it. But before I did that, because that's a shooting phase action, I used the strategic reserves rule where you can come in within 1 inch of your own board edge and be within 9 inches of an enemy model and just slapped the bikes right on the board edge.
Okay.
Behind a piece of terrain where they couldn't be seen by the Doomsday Arc, but they could see the Doom Scythe, and just lit
Hmm.
it up. And then just lit it up. Like, that was it. Like, they died.
Yeah.
And that's one of those
Those
where, like, I had to do
Necron
some
airplanes are not hard to
pre-measuring
kill.
to make sure the Talon Master could get over there and still give obsec to the Deathwing Knights and still see the Doom Scythe and all that kind of stuff. But that worked out nice. And then he had to, he couldn't just point and click the bikes because they were behind terrain with his Doom Scythe or his Ghost Arc. And then he did charge me early on with his Scorpec destroyers into the Assault Terminator squad because I was screening the Deathwing Knights. I had a piece of terrain in front of the objective that was line of sight blocking, and then I had the Assault Terminators in front, characters behind it, Deathwing Knights behind that, and then I was using Incursors and Infiltrators to screen out the rest of it. In fact, I don't think he ever used his Veil of Darkness. We went 5 turns, unlike the previous game, and he never used his Veil of Darkness because he's like, there's nowhere to go. And I'm like, I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah.
But those Scorpecs, they got into the Terminators, and because they charged me, right, I get +1 to hit. So I was ignoring the -1 to hit with the Thunderhammers, and I had full rerolls because I had been praying every turn off of Broham.
Your chaplain, yeah.
And I just hammered them, and they all died, and he just kind of went, oh! And, like, nothing got within 12 inches of them until, like, the very end of the game, because in this one, if you hold the center objective at the end of the game, it's worth 5 points per primary. And right at the end, I was like, all right, I'll make a play to try and sit in the middle of the board just to see if I can deny him it. It didn't work. My characters died. My Plasma Inceptors died. My one squad of Terminators died. Part of that was because I failed some charges. Oh, I failed the prayer of +2 to charge that last turn. So, like, my Deathwing Knights didn't make it to the middle of the board. Only the Assault Intercessors, the Chaplain, and the Plasma Inceptors made it. And so he just walked warriors out of buildings. Because I was like, all right, at this point, because we're getting towards the end of time, and he's like, well, what he asked me, he's like, well, what can I do here to get the most amount of points? Because he's like, I don't think I can get engaged now or knockmooned because there's nowhere to put this one table quarter I need. I can't put warriors there because you've screened it out with all of your dudes. And I was like, here's the deal. You kill all these guys. You don't even have to kill all these guys. You just have to kill the things that are OBSEC, which I think it might have been some Incursors, and blow up the Talon Master, and then tag the objective with one warrior, and it's yours, and you score all these points, and that's pretty much all you have to do. So we just kind of fast played his turn 5 because it's like there really wasn't anything else to do.
So he went second. So he had the end of game scoring.
Yes.
Okay. So I think one of the things to point out there that's very important to understand about the way Stubborn Defiance works is that pick an objective, and that objective must be continuously held by an OBSEC unit, and it's tallied based on the number of consecutive command phases you hold it. So 1, you have to hold it in your first command phase, even though you don't score it in your first command phase.
Correct.
2, it doesn't have to be the same unit. So yes, you're making your Deathwing Knights OBSEC to hold it, and then when they need to move out, you can move those Incursors in. Now that the threat to them from the Doom Scythe has been neutralized, you just move in there, hold it with something else, and then your Deathwing Knights can move out and do their thing. So that is a good, valid tactic for Stubborn Defiance.
Yeah. And so this ended up being like a 97 to 83 win for me. And it's basically because we both kind of looked at each other and went, we don't actually have to kill each other to score a bunch of points. Because he was sitting on 2 objectives that I couldn't really see him, and we couldn't really see each other. We both just sat on 2 objectives most of the game, and knockmooned where we could, and basically the last 2 turns a bunch of stuff happened, and I just had a lot of points. So that was fun, and that guy's name was David. I think he ended up winning best opponent. Like, he was a really cool dude.
Oh, good for him, yeah.
And so we had a lot of fun, and we went over. There's a restaurant and bar next door, so I went over and bought him a beer because I was like, dude, you're pretty sweet. And
you did say the after party went till 1:30 in the morning, so.
Yeah, yep. There was some of that. Yeah, I was up late watching Jesus Christ Superstar videos because There was a point of the night where we started talking about musicals.
You do you, man.
All right, so while I was at the bar with David, we were looking at our round 3 matchup, and I looked at it and went, "I'm just dead," because I've played this matchup a lot, and there really isn't anything I can do about this. This is just the hard counter. I lose. So I was playing this guy named Mike, and Mike's, I think, a pretty good Dark Angels player. He comes to the store a lot. He's on the Rising Tide gaming team, so they went out to the ATC tournament in Las Vegas. He went to LVO, was apparently the only Blood Angels player at LVO, at least from what he saw. And he actually called out the guy that was playing, like the number 1 Blood Angels player in the world last year was at LVO playing Drukhari. And so he like walked up to him and was like, "Bro, you have betrayed your brothers. I challenge you round 1," and then just got slapped. But he's like, "I felt like I had to do it for the brethren."
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for this guy, and I looked at his list, and it was Combat Squad, Vanguard Vets with Storm Shields and Lightning Claws. He had Death Company with Thunderhammers. He had a big blob of Sanguinary Guard, a Redemptor, Chaplain on bike, Primaris Chaplain on bike with all the defensive buffs, like the Armor Indomitus and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Sanguinary Ancient with stuff to make his guys move faster and charge better. Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack. Big blob of Blade Guard, Incursors, Infiltrators. He also does the silly thing with the Storm Landspeeder Storm, where he just has one. No scouts to go in it, just the one Landspeeder that can fly over things and score engage for him. He had that.
That's a cool piece of tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the first people I saw use it pretty regularly, and like he's also one of the only people I've ever seen use the little Primaris gun turrets with the Tech Marine.
Oh, the Fire Strikes.
Yeah.
I was interested in those in the previous edition of the Dark Angel Special Rules, like when they had extended range and stuff, but not so much anymore.
Nope.
Oh well.
Same. So in this one, this is the one where you have the center cut out of the middle, where you play you deploy the 2 table quarters. The mission was Death and Zeal, and you got points for taking an objective you didn't control the turn before, or killing an enemy unit within range of an objective. And you had the big deep deployment zones because it's the table quarter with the circle, the half circle or whatever cut out of it.
That one.
Yep. And
yeah,
I deployed like way back on my objective, like behind my objective with most of my army.
I'm willing to bet, if I may, that wasn't far enough back.
No.
Yeah. You just get like the Death Company are like they're gonna forlorn for you, and they are going to get to you.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Because Mike got to go first. I kind of deployed to go first to try and get a jump on him. So like I put Infiltrators at 1 table quarter, and I put him out early because I knew he had Infiltrators and Incursors, and whenever I see that matchup, I always like to put mine out as soon as possible so I can try and force and be like, "This is my part. You have to go over there," and then try and kind of push him in because I knew if I didn't, there was potential for him to just go, "Here are all my scouts, Phobos guys on the line, and they're going to rush you, and by the time you're done dealing with them, all my other stuff gets to you unscathed." And I'm like, well, I need to at least try and create something as a roadblock.
It's important in that matchup, especially because the Forlorn Fury Death Company, I don't think they're allowed to move within 9 inches of you on that pregame move.
Yeah.
So you can like, boop, and you can create a buffer, and hunting your bikes can also do the same thing, but yeah.
Well, and this is where I took secondaries because I just didn't know what to do because I was like, he's gonna jump on me and I'm just gonna die, and so I was kind of doesn't matter. And I kind of deployed aggressively, hoping to go first so I could get, because I took Knockmoon, Engage on all fronts, and Death on the Wind, and I was like hoping, hey, if I get to go first and I have Engage, I'm at least gonna get it that first turn and Knockmoon whatever the table quarter with the Infiltrators, and hopefully, that gives me a little bit of a head start on points, and I can maybe build on that. But then I didn't get to go first, so it was literally just a springboard for all his jump pack units. And
Engage is a tough choice in that matchup because you're like, he's going to be on top of you, and the whole game. I've played this matchup as Drukhari, and he's like, and I'm like, we spend the first 3 turns like in my deployment design, like me killing him away from me, and then trying to it's hard to push. You've got to push back real hard. I mean, I think that the Dark Angels have the tools against that because those charging into your Deathwing with their +1 to wound just doesn't matter. It just
Yep.
doesn't matter. So a couple, like, if having the little shield wall of Blade Guard or Knights or Deathwing,
Yeah.
you can stop a lot of it, especially if you have a pennant. But yeah,
I mean,
it's
he
you
was
gotta
he was
yeah.
real smart because I got that shield wall belt, and I had some things here. Well, he had just enough guns from the sanguinary guard, because their bolt guns are good, that he started
They have
shooting.
2 damage
He couldn't
bolt
shoot
guns.
my
Yeah,
characters, but he started shooting my small plasma squad and made a little tiny hole next to my characters that he could charge his smaller squad of Vanguard vets into, and just completely jumped over
yeah.
the Deathwing. And I was like, yeah, that's some smart stuff.
Yep,
I can't. Now, luckily, I did have Reliquary of the Repentant there, because he jumped on top of my Apothecary, and I had a chance to interrupt him and kill some of them, but then they killed the Apothecary, and basically my army fell apart at that point, because that's what happens when in this list. If you kill the Apothecary, the Deathwing Terminators don't come back, they don't heal, and you just start picking them up, because the thing I knew that was going to happen was that, and I was dreading, was that he got multiple squads in at once. I mean, I did get some of the heat off because the jump pack guys outpaced his Blade Guard, so like the Blade Guard really I didn't have to deal with them because they just sat around and did actions and sat on objectives and things, because he couldn't really get to them, keep up. But one squad of Knights, or the Terminator Assault squad, got Vanguard vets, 2 squads of Vanguard vets basically, and the Sanguinary Guard into them in one turn, and the Chaplain, and just they all got picked up because so many dice got thrown at me. It doesn't matter that I have transhuman. It doesn't matter that I ignore +1 to wound. When he's throwing a lot of high AP dice with a lot of damage behind it, and I didn't have the Penitent of Remembrance, I just didn't have the points to get the. I also don't have a Terminator Ancient that's not like 25 on a 25 millimeter base with double lightning claws, which you can't run anymore. So I just, because I was trying to get those 10 points for Painted so badly, I was like, I'm not running him. Well, that would have been one where maybe I would have had a chance. And then like
this makes me think. This makes me think that that if the Apothecary is the linchpin of the list, maybe take the Armor and Dominus on the Apothecary, and find another way to get the Reliquary. Because be like, all right, get it. You're on my Apothecary. He's got a 2-up save and he's got a 3-up save.
Yep.
2-up, 3-up in Vol.
So
all of a sudden, like, oh, I might not kill this guy. That does kind of go with what Charlie was saying. Is like the Apothecary is so important for this list that. Yeah, that might be something I would think about. I just thought of that. I'm gonna consider it.
Which is probably why Charlie ran the Deathwing Apothecaries as opposed to running the bike one, because the Deathwing ones have inherent invulns, period.
Yeah.
As opposed to
you can take Storm Shields on them, right?
I think
I'm pretty sure you can give them a Thunderhammer Storm Shield.
You used to, because I have a Peter one that's kitted out that way.
Yeah, I think they can be equipped however you want them to. Okay. That's a tough matchup. You're right.
Yep. and then turn one, and then when I did try and hop out and shoot him, like, I didn't kill all 5 Blade Guard or Deathwing Death Company dudes, because he came up, jumped on top of this building or this hill, and then when he went to charge me, he's like, oh wait, I forgot I have to measure down and out, and so this charge that would have been in a previous edition of the game like a 5-inch charge turned into a 10-inch charge, so they didn't make it. And they were just sitting there. So, I moved stuff, and I try and get Death on the Wind, and I kill him down to one guy because he just rolled 6s on his Feel No Pains like crazy. So I don't kill him.
Yeah.
My attack bike swung out because he moved his Redemptor out and shot the Redemptor, and my damage dice rolls weren't high enough. I didn't kill him in one turn, and that slowed me down. Where like there were things I could have come out and got a bunch of Death on the Wind and moved on and killed other targets, and it just didn't happen. It took me 2 turns to kill things that I was hoping to kill in one. And
I think Death on the Wind is kind of a trap unless you are full Ravenwing, like committed Ravenwing. But that's just my opinion, because like I said, you've got to kill things with there's a lot of restrictions on it. So
because there was like the problem with like, because then I accidentally got some guys in some woods. I'm like, crud, I have to be able to move 12 inches. And I was like, oh wait, their bikes move 14, so I can still move 12 inches. But then I got to avoid his stuff and not be within an inch of him. And like I was just like, yeah, this is not good. But I needed something that wasn't stand somewhere so much, because it's like I'm not going to be able to get out of my deployment zone. I have to.
Yeah, he's going
I
to
have
come to
to
you.
try and kill
Yeah.
him. So that ended up being a 98-32 loss for me. That was pretty brutal. But I didn't get tabled. It was close because basically what happened. I did every game. I deep struck the shooty Terminator squad, so that if I had the ability to come in and give him +1 to hit, +1 to wound, I could. And in that game, he jumped me so forward that he left a hole in the back, and I dropped my Terminators in there and had them start doing knock wound and rolling less than a 6, so that way I didn't mess it up. And I started scoring that in his 2 back table quarters because all there were back there were some infiltrators, and they just ran away from me. Because this is also one of those missions where once you cap an objective, you don't have to stand there, you can just keep going. So he tagged it, moved, and just ran away from me, and I just let my Terminators knock wound, and that was all was left of my army at the end of that one. But I had a good time. Mike is a pretty cool dude and very knowledgeable player of the game, in my opinion. And he ended up like 4th, I think, overall. Oh, so the top, you'll like this. So the top 3 of this, Tau, duh. And to be fair, the guy that won has been playing Tau the entire time. Like this entire edition.
Respect.
And he's been playing Farsight Enclaves. I'm gonna jump on you with all of my commander suits, and he was building punchy assault based battlesuit commanders since day 1. He just very hyper aggressive Tau player that you go to play Tau and you're like, oh, there's gonna be a gun line, there's a ball, and no, he just comes in right at you.
Nope.
And you're like, whoa, back up, buddy.
Yeah, that's how I would like to play Tau. It'd be danger close battle suits. Yep. It seems like a more dynamic way to play, but.
There was Chaos Demons with a bunch of Greater Demons. And that guy's pretty cool. Yeah.
Like Slanesh Demons?
Mostly Nurgle, but there was a Keeper of Secrets.
Okay.
And a really beautifully painted Greater Demon of Nurgle.
Be'lakor?
And
was there a Be'lakor?
There was a Be'lakor. He was also
of course there's a Be'lakor.
Yeah. And then this is the best one. This was the best list of the whole tournament, right? This goofy format. This guy realized that there are 2 Orc Stampa data sheets. So his list was 2
Bold move,
Stampas, a Gorkanaut, the Death Killer Wartrike guy, and maybe some Grots. And that was his 2,000 point list.
Alright.
And he got 3rd
You're
place.
A champion.
With 2 wins
You're
and a draw.
Champion.
I was
You're a champion.
This is amazing.
A champion, sir.
So that was fun. I ended up 8 out of... At 2-1, I ended up at 8 out of 20, so I felt that was respectable.
Not bad. Hey, top half. Like I said, I mean, it's good to see that. Hey, take some of the stuff that we've learned. We get a chance to interact with some of the top players in the world, and try and start putting that stuff into action. So, our game store here in Honolulu is opening back up for play starting basically this week. So I'm gonna go play this week, and I don't know if we have enough time to do 2K games because they have their opening hours are still kind of short because of the Rona, but we're starting to get there. And there are tournaments starting to come back in. We had a tournament yesterday. I couldn't play because I had a D&D game scheduled. There's one next week, but I'm not gonna be able to play because we have a recording scheduled with an upcoming very special guest.
Oh yeah,
stay tuned. Very special guest. We have scheduled for next Sunday, 1 week from today. But so I'm not gonna be able to do that, but that's cool. But once again, we're getting there, so it's coming back.
Speaking of videos, that reminds me, I did do a lot of recording. I did some recording at this, so there will be a video, sort of like if you've seen some of my earlier War Diaries videos from a year or 2 ago when I first started the channel. I did some of that kind of footage, so you'll get to meet David and Mike and Rich, who are my opponents, get a look at their armies, actually look at my physical army, like what it actually looks like, not the TTS version, and see some of the terrain tables and things like that. So you'll get a chance to meet some of these people and see how much fun it is to go play tournaments, because that's part of this. Is people have this idea that tournament players are these weird, mean people, and it's no, these guys were great. It was a lot of fun, and it's tournaments are, especially if you're with the one I went to, stuff at Chris's. There's such a focus on hobby and sportsmanship that it really is about the celebration of the hobby as a whole. It's not just about winning. And that's what the feel that I like, is he does a raffle. There's a door prize raffle every round, so even if you don't win, you can still win a cool prize. And then he does give store credit awards out for best sportsman and best painter, in addition to giving out prizes for first, second, third. So he tries really hard to give you an experience when you come. That like you may go and go. Because I remember one time this guy went to one of his tournaments, went 0-3, and walked out with an Indominus box back when you couldn't get one. Like
Nice.
it was right when that
Nice.
came out.
Yeah.
Like that was the third round prize support was raffle was like you're just gonna walk away with Indominus. Have fun. So
Cool.
like it was pretty sweet. Well, speaking of smaller points, let's take a look at our featured segment here. We're gonna jump back into TTS here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna zip over and take a look at. I know I'm kind of going on here, but since you said smaller points, I figured this was probably the better place to start.
So let me just introduce this here. So the premise is, okay, well, what do you do for a new player just starting either this faction or the game? And we talked to Charlie last week, and he said he actually recommends staying away from Terminators, right? Which is kind of the predominant high level play. So we took that and said, okay, well, what are we going to do? Like, if someone's starting to listen to the show, maybe starting to the hobby because they like the way the models look, how would you recommend starting the faction? So Bailey made a 1,000-point list. I made a 2,000-point list about what we think a good beginner list would be. Now, once again, this is a beginner list. This isn't cutting edge competitive, but it's just something. These are models you should have that will exemplify some of the tactics and the hobby aspects of the faction. So what do you got for 1,000 points?
Right. So keeping in mind this beginner faction, I also tried to build things with models I know I could easily get my hands on too. So that's what some of this is.
That's a good point. Yeah.
It starts out with Azrael. He can sometimes be hard to find. I say all that and like sometimes he's hard to find, but the center to everything in Dark Angels, especially Green Wing lists, it all centers around Azrael. He has the Chapter Master rerolls. He can put things back a doctrine, which matters in a Green Wing list because once you get to the Assault Doctrine, that means he can push guys back into tactical the whole game. And if you're running rapid fire and assault weapons on, say, your intercessors, your hell blasters. What are these? Oh, these are my assault intercessors. Nah, don't worry about them. We don't use them. But basically, these things here, and I think I had rapid fire weapons on these guys too. I took the assault weapon profile, not the heavy weapon profile. Yeah, it's the Melta rifle.
So the three shot hell blasters, not the 2-shot hell blasters.
I think on the list I think they're all free to go.
They're all free. It doesn't matter points.
Yeah. I have the rapid fire ones. So you can interchange. So I think on the list I actually wrote them as rapid fire, but yeah, the assault you can run them as the assault ones. It matters that it's the assault or the rapid fire one in this list because then you can put them back into tactical and then they can shoot if they get locked into close combat using fire discipline, which is the key here to me. And having Azrael having the brilliant strategist, he also gives you 2 extra command points. So I ran a patrol, so this is a patrol detachment. Which is why you only see 2 troop choices. So you have less command points, but you do get +2 from Ezreal, which is nice. Supporting him is a lieutenant, and this is just the regular Dark Angels lieutenant, but the way I pointed him out in the list is that he is the one from Indomitus, where he has the Storm Shield, he has the sword, the Neo-Volkite. I paid to knock him up to Rites of Initiation.
Deathwing.
So he's Deathwing, so he gets free transhuman. And the thing when I built this list, the thing you have to remember about being a Dark Angels player at the beginning is that you are a Space Marines player first. And not just any Space Marines player, you are a Loyalist Space Marines player. All right? Key here, Loyalist, which means you are inherently, by nature, a shooting army. In my opinion, that's my opinion, having looked at this game for as long as I have. When you look at the rules and the way they're written at the bare baseline level, what makes Chaos Marines is that they are spiky, punchy Marines, and Loyalist Marines are not so spiky and not as punchy inherently. Now, you do have your different chapters that change that, like Space Wolves and Blood Angels, but at the core, it's a DACA army. And that's what I'm looking at here. That's why I run the Lieutenant, because you have reroll 1s, and 1 unit gets full rerolls off of Ezreal every turn, and then the Lieutenant lets you reroll your 1s to wound. So you have rerolls on both the hit and the wound roll across the whole army because it's core, and I believe all these things are core.
Yeah, all those things are core. There's a lot of efficiency you get out of that army, out of that having that kind of philosophy.
Yep. And then I have the Chief Apothecary, Primaris Apothecary. So this is one of those things where you can get one of these. They're everywhere. I don't think they're that hard
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
find. So I went with him, made him the chief apothecary, so you can bring a guy back for free every turn and he heals. And then I went with a blade guard. Oh, this is kind of a weird model for him, or painting them all red like that and green is kind of weird. But went with the blade guard veteran or the blade guard ancient because they're everywhere. They're really fun
Mm-hmm.
to convert. And he's Deathwing, so he has inner circle as well, and so that was a key thing for me. Now you don't get the benefit of his +1 to hit for blade guard units within 6 inches because nothing else is blade guard. But he does have the normal ancient rules where if one of your units dies on a 4-up, they get to make one final attack, which is important because if you have a gun, that means you get to shoot all the shots out of your gun.
And you
Right?
just overcharge it because the dude's dying
Yep.
anyway. So who cares?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have the assault intercessors, and I believe I paid on this because this list ended up being like 990 points, and so there's some flex choices you can make with power weapons on sergeants and things in this. So in here, I gave the sergeant a thunder hammer because if you've never played with a thunder hammer assault intercessor sergeant, you have not lived. Because if you,
I I'm personally a fan of the power weapon because then you can upgrade it to a Heavenfall blade,
oh, that's also true.
which makes him dead killy.
Yeah,
But yeah, Thunderhammers do some work too.
because they get to fight twice. They do have that stratagem for 2 points, so that means that guy's thrown out like 8 attacks in one turn with a Thunderhammer by himself if he doesn't die. It's
Yeah.
pretty good. Then I have regular assault intercessors, and I have them with the rapid fire. Interesting, going back to that last round against Mike, he had the assault version on his intercessors, and he kept calling them assault intercessors because they had the assault bolt rifle, and it just threw me off because I'm like, dude, they have guns, they don't have chainswords. And he's like, well, they have the assault gun. I'm like, oh, I get it. And that's also one of the only times I've ever seen anybody play with those. And they were super fast because he was advancing and shooting them the whole game because they were an assault weapon. So that was interesting.
I think for us, it's definitely the rapid fire
Yep.
one's definitely the right choice.
Yep.
Definitely the right choice.
And then Hell Blasters, which we have previously mentioned. And then sort of in this flex spot, I wanted, because like these are good mid-range, but killing vehicles can be hard unless you super commit to overcharging them and then playing Weapons for the Dark Age on them and dumping all the rerolls and then they might die and it gets kind of a mess.
So I had a problem with that this last week game I played where when you play into Space Marines or once again like Custos or a couple of factions that have like really important defensive buffs, when you say, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, like okay, I'm gonna transhuman him, and it just cuts the effectiveness, the investment you get in those command points down significantly. Yep. So having multiple layers of attack, multiple layers of threat is really important.
Yep. And at 135, 3 multi-gun guys from your Eradicators, I thought that would be sufficient enough to kind of back up with sort of some heavier anti-tank. So you have some melee blend here, you have some bigger tank shooting here, some mid-range elite killing in here. These guys can clear out hordes with their guns, and then Ezreal, this lieutenant with, because I didn't go through all the warlord traits because I didn't really pick any because outside of Ezreal, because I think there's a lot of flex, like if you want to go utility with Rites of War, or if you want to try and make him more killy. But I mean, he's a dude with a power sword, a storm shield, so he has a 4-up invul and a 2-up armor save, 4 attacks base with +1 when he gets charged or does charge or intervenes, and then you could give him a relic like the Heavenfall Blade to give him more attacks. So there's like a lot of flex in these two guys because Ezreal can fight, and I feel like this lieutenant, if you were wanting to put the resources into him, could also fight. And so you have some melee deterrent in this list to back up and protect these guys. And basically my idea was, so if we come over here to the board real quick, see if we can move these guys over here.
All right.
We have like, so we're gonna
help you.
just I don't remember how to manipulate these guys quite as well as I want, so we're just gonna do this real quick. But basically the idea is you put these guys sort of in the front. Hold on, there's an extra guy. Get off there. 5-man.
Get out of here.
Then of course you put like Ezreal in the middle. You put the lieutenant in the middle. This is kind of a very blocky project. You put the ancient in the apothecary in the middle. Then you put your dudes in
Yep,
here.
Yeah, you just make your little death ball.
Yep, and it's
So in the at the incursion level, you get a lot more sticky objective games. So you can control a couple of objectives on the first turn, and then consolidate yourself up into a ball.
yep, yep, and you just start loading dudes in basically. Made some dice. Oops. And then you just kind of wherever you feel like you might be exposed, you throw some intercessors out, and these guys can like sit on the back as well. Like you could, if you have more depth, like this is for like Dawn of War, so like you don't really have the amount of have Dawn of War deployment, which is the short board. Is that what people call a short board?
Yeah, it's the short board, or no, it's the long board edges.
Long board edges, right?
Yeah, the set piece deployment with long board edges.
So this is a little bit harder with that here, but you could put these guys off the back like Charlie talked about last week in the interview. You can put them on sides like tri-point, or put these guys in the front because they're punchy, and put the shooty guys in the back. I would like these guys for a counter charge, so I'd rather sacrifice the shooty guys than counter charge with these. So
I think that's a good idea. Yeah. Also important to remember that Azrael's bubble, the unit does not have to be completely within 6. They just have to be within 6.
Right.
So you can spider guys away from him, and the whole army almost, like if you're not trying to ball up against a charge threat, the whole army can stretch out and basically get a 4-up and roll save
like
against shooting,
octopus.
which is really nice. Yeah.
And from there you can like do knockmoon and engage in all fronts and all sorts of stuff. Like you just kind of ball up like this. Like if they want to get into your meat, and like maybe I'd swap these, move these characters back. I'd move them back so I could put another layer of defense between them, because you really don't want them diving to like push those guys forward, and then put your characters back in here.
So this is a really good way to get Oath of Moment. You can just move this little death ball into the center, sit on it, and like at 1,000 points, it's tough to interact with this because they're going to charge you, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm fine with you charging me. I'm going to fight you, and then I'm going to shoot you, and then I'm going to fight you again because I shoot you in close combat.
Yep, and that's sort of how this list deploys now. And like I said, you just move into the middle. I thought, like, take Oath of the Moment, retrieve Knockmoon data, take advantage of the fact that like it makes, you can even use the Hell Blasters. You can even Knockmoon with them if you really had to, and then spend 2 CP and still shoot with them. So like if you're tendril, you're doing the tendril thing that you were talking about, where like if you put Ezreal like there, you can actually go like do some craziness like this to. Oh, that did not do what I wanted. Go
just flip
there.
them over. Yep, there you go. Yeah. One thing that's important to note about this formation. So Dark Angels are really good at getting a lot of efficiency in shooting out of like the cover move tactic. So when you're going to move your ball, so once again in the command phase you have to declare what is Azrael going to give Chapter Master rerolls to. So you probably are going to be tempted to say I'm going to give Chapter Master rerolls to my Hellblasters. But with 2 units like this that you want to shoot with, you can always say, well, I'm going to give Chapter Master rerolls to one of them. And honestly, I'd probably put that on my guys in front. And then you can spend 2 CP to make a unit not move, count as not moving, an infantry unit, and then they're going to get +1 to hit. So then his reroll 1s to hit aura basically is reroll everything. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. And being able to get a lot of efficacy out of multiple units.
Yeah, and so you
so
can
the one thing...
I was going to say, so you can do something like this, and if you position it right, I feel like you can keep things inside the 4-up invuln bubble, and you could you'd have to move it forward. This table, it's not as convenient, but you'd be able to move it forward, and then I could Knockmoon with these guys over here. I can Knockmoon in this corner. I can Knockmoon over here. And if you move right down the middle, you can bounce squads over the table quarters fairly easily, wholly within, but more than 6 inches from the center, and Knockmoon your way up the board every turn. And
still pay to shoot. And another thing, having access to Azrael, let's get incursion level missions. You only get 6 CP. Well, now you have 8, right? So you got more. So you basically you can do one additional battle tactic stratagem.
Yep.
So it's a lot of heavy infantry.
Yep. All right.
So practicing that little deployment technique, like how you're going to move, is honestly one of the most important things you can do as a Space Marine player. This is managing your auras is like the fundamental tactic of how to play Space Marines. So managing your auras to figure out where they need to be.
Yep.
So, all right, you want to see what I'm going to do at 2,000 points?
Yep.
All right, so I got it all set up over here. Let's take a look. Okay, so apologize for the blue, but my TTS model catalog is somewhat limited, and this is what I have. So what I got here is a single battalion detachment, right? And it's led, once again, by Azrael, right? So I've tried to make this stuff that's relatively easily accessible. You can get access to all these kits. Only thing that's going to be a little tough is the Apothecary, the Ravenwing Apothecary, because you have to get that in a Ravenwing Black Knight kit. But it's worth it. You should get one. So, all right. So Azrael, once again, for the same reasons we previously described, and he's going to do another thing in this list that I'll get to when we start talking about how to position it. Then a Talon Master, and I've gone ahead and made the stance that you should take Rites of War and Arbiter's Gaze, because the Rites of War is going to give you the ability to have the Obsec aura, and then I've also taken Samael, and once again, the reason I've made this choice is twofold. One, Samael is obviously going to interact with the attack bikes and the Talon Master because he can give them Chapter Master rerolls. Now, the Talon Master normally doesn't have access to rerolls because he's not core, but Chapter Masters can give characters rerolls. So you can give your attack bikes. Intent is you give the attack bikes rerolls on turn 1. They go up, they kill something, and then after that you can give the Talon Master the rerolls if you want. So, and also late in the game, Samael can Chapter Master buff himself, and now he's rerolling his plasma cannon and himself in close combat. So that's very efficient. And there's one other thing he's going to do, which I'll get there in a second. So then I have a Chief Apothecary, and I think the Chief Apothecary is very important in this because we have 6 Blade Guard veterans, right? And these Blade Guard veterans are going to be the stiff backbone of this army. These are what's going to be your countercharge threat. They're going to basically stand in front of Azrael and basically say, hey, best of luck, come at me. So I don't have a Pen in Remembrance because I wanted to do other things, and I don't want to just lean in on the ball here, but I wanted to demonstrate a couple of other things. But the Blade Guard veterans are they're dead killy. Yep. They provide, and they're so hard to move, especially when Azrael is standing right next to them, and they're rerolling 1s to hit. And once again, you charge them, they are hitting on 2s. They reroll 1s to hit. I don't need to use Chapter Master rerolls on them. That's the thing. So, because what you're going to use your Chapter Master rerolls on is this giant, chonky Redemptor Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Because remember, Redemptor Dreadnoughts are core. So, what I would prefer is I want you to take the Plasma Incinerator instead of the Onslaught Cannon. Because you're a Dark Angel and you should always take Plasma when the option is presented to you. So the other important thing about this, and I'll show you when we line these guys up on the board, is the Dreadnought is going to give you a very important anchor for your little mini Death Ball. Because if you need to charge the Blade Guard into something, you don't want to leave Azrael on screen for Lookout Outstir, and that's where the Dreadnought comes in.
Oh, yeah, because he's a vehicle.
Because he's a vehicle, right? So he's one model is going to do Lookout Outstir. Now, he doesn't have an invul save, so if you're looking at Tau railguns, or probably a couple other things, right? So I usually don't take Redemptors because I don't think they're durable enough. But they're such an icon. The Dreadnoughts are my original version of this list did not have it. One of my friends recommended it because Dreadnoughts are just such an iconic Space Marine unit, and the Redemptor Dreadnoughts are not that hard to get a hold of. I think probably a more competitive version of this list would have a Contemptor, a Relic Contemptor. But once again, I don't want to recommend Forge World stuff for a new player. But there you go, right? Because the Relic Contemptor is going to have an invul save. So, all right. So let's move on to our troops. So I've got 3 units of troops here. So I've got 2 units of infiltrators. I know they look like scouts, but they're just hiding. They're infiltrators. Trust me. So the reason I've taken 2 squads of infiltrators is because, one, you need to secure your backfield against deep strike, and you need to be able to score Nachman data and engage on all fronts, because that's what I think this list is going to do. It's probably going to go Oath the Moment, it's going to go Nachman data, engage on all fronts. So the tactic here is you're going to leave 1 unit of infiltrators kind of in your backfield to sit on an objective, maybe throw up a banner, or do a Nachman, and then 2 of those units, you can completely secure your backfield against deep strikers, right? And deep strikers are going to be a big thing with all the Eldar that are coming out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So securing your backfield against deep strike is important. So then turn 2, maybe turn 3, once you've gotten the knockmans on both of those, you're going to pull one of these units back into reserve using the concealed position stratagem, or whatever it's called,
Guerrilla
the one where
tactics.
you can undeploy guerrilla tactics. You can undeploy a Phobos unit, and then they're going to, on turn probably 4, maybe 3, drop down into your opponent's backfield and get knockman data from there.
Yep.
So that's why I've tried to do here. So then I've got a unit of intercessors to finish out the battalion and just kind of provide, once again, an objective sit, and they're going to screen probably the back of Azrael's bubble. So Azrael's going to have Blade Guard in front of him, and he's going to have intercessors behind him, with infiltrators securing your backfield and potentially flying off to go contest the enemy's table quarter. So the next piece, you're like, why aren't these Hellblasters doing the same thing? Well, here's 10 Hellblasters. I went ahead and made the move to make them assault Hellblasters, so they have the 3-shot assault gun that's strength 6 overcharged to 7, because you need the shots. I think you need the firepower. Having 10 of them gives you some flexibility. So, one, if you're in just a shoot-off mission, then you can put a big brick of them at 10 unit of 10 behind Azrael. They're going to get the absolute maximum efficiency out of Weapons of the Dark Age.
Yep.
They're going to get the absolute maximum efficiency out of your Chapter Master rerolls, and they're going to do a lot of work. But what I think the flexibility here is most games I think you would probably combat squad them. And why am I going to combat squad them, Bailey?
Is this an impulsor right here?
That's an impulsor. So here's the thing. Half of them are going to go in the impulsor, and the impulsor is what is going to let you, on turn 1 or turn 2, develop your position in an unpredictable way. When I mean develop your position, I mean you're going to develop a firing angle from a flank. So you're going to deploy the impulsor probably on the side of your deployment zone or in the middle center of your deployment zone, so that you can use the impulsor to move, jump the Hellblasters out, and then get them touching cover and get an angle on something, and then they're going to put a lot of firepower down range. And that's the other reason that Samael is in this list, because Samael is a captain for everybody. So Samael is going to, one of the tactics I think you got here is when your Hellblasters jump out, Samael is going to move up to provide a captain reroll for them. So you jump out of the impulsor, I spent 2 CP, so now I don't count as moving. I'm hitting on 2s, I'm rerolling 1s, and if I want to, I can overcharge and put 15, strength 7, AP 4, maybe even AP 5, 3 damage shots downrange. But oh wait, there's more, because once again, this is a flex option. You can do this or not do this. I put a master-crafted weapon with marked for command on the Hellblaster Sergeant. So his assault plasma incinerator is 2 damage base, so it overcharges to 4.
Ooh.
Because, yeah.
Nice.
So this is going to be, so you've got flexibility now, right? So I can use this to develop a forward position. I can use it to take an objective. I can use it to knock someone off an objective. And I've got another shooting castle behind Azrael. So he's got Blade Guard in front. He's got plasma in Hellblasters behind him. And then I've got 2 flanking units, right? One of which is going to be the multi-melta attack bikes. So the multi-melta attack bikes, turn 1, the intent is Sam's going to give them the Chapter Master reroll. Then they're going to go do their thing. Now, how you deploy this army is going to be very, very important, because you have to consider, am I going to use the hunt? Because if you use the hunt, that happens before the game begins, or after the game begins, but before its first turn begins. So if you intend on using Samael to Chapter Master reroll your bikes, then you have to deploy him so that he is in range of using his Chapter Master reroll, which is 6 inches, after you've done your hunt move. So that's kind of one of the things you need to look out for here. I don't think using hunt on the multi-melta attack bikes is a good choice a lot of the times, because you need this unit to be, like, you don't want to throw it away.
Right.
right? You're going to want to harass a flank with it. You want to develop a line and attack a key vehicle with it, or a key heavy infantry unit.
Yep.
Maybe like if there's a big crusher or stampede monster, then sure, I'm gonna buff everything up. I'm gonna throw them forward. We'll get this done, hell or high water. But I think holding these guys towards mid game is going to be a better choice.
Well, and this is where you do the you stay in the tactical doctrine, right? A second turn instead of jumping straight to assault, and then you can brilliant strategist the bikes back into Devastator, turn 3. All right, they
it depends once again. It depends on your movement and the matchup, because brilliant strategist only works within 6 inches of Azrael.
Right.
And once again, you've also got the 2 other. So the Dark Angels have 2 other ways to manipulate doctrines. So you can use the adaptive flexibility from the main Space Marine book, but you have to be within range of the Warlord to do that. Or the Dark Angels one, which is the adaptive tactics, that lets you put a unit into the doctrine of your choice. Okay. So I personally think that if I was going to do this, I would be brilliant strategizing. Like if the Talon Master happens to be sitting next to to Azrael, he's going to brilliant strategize him, because that just makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And if you get an opportunity for your Redemptor to go in and do his thing, then putting a Redemptor Dreadnought into all doctrines is really good, because he has a lot of heavy weapons and he has a lot of assault weapons, and that fist hurts things badly. Yep. It punches the crap out of stuff. Also, once again, if you want to mess with the points a little bit, you can put the Redemptor Dreadnought into Rites of Initiation, so that if he gets to touch a vehicle or monster, he's going to reroll wounds with that giant fist. That does 3 plus D3 damage.
Yep.
Once again, the original version of this list had that, but I wanted to get a couple more units in here. So I think this list is good. I think it has a lot of flexibility, and you can respond based on your deployment and your movement to a lot of different threats. What do you think?
No, I like what you've got here. A lot of options and what you can do with your army, because even then, if you wanted to, you could even combat squad and throw, because these guys fit in the Blade Guard fit in the Impulsor too. So
that's
you could
true.
Throw half of them in there. The Intercessors can go in there. Infiltrators can go in there, because the dedicated transports, they're not dedicated to a specific squad, right? So you can like run it around and pick up things and move them around as you need them going forward, right?
Yeah, the only so it's like the scenario where you have 10 Hellblasters sitting around Azrael, you could definitely put the Blade Guard into the Impulsor and use them to rush, to bully the center of the board, or maybe bully the side of the board is probably a better option, because you don't want, depending on how the line of sight plays out, you don't want everyone being able to draw a bead on at the same time. Other thing is the Ravenwing Apothecary. I put the Astartes grenade launcher on him, because that gives you access to the stratagem that prevents people from falling back. So if you can tag somebody with that, then charge your Blade Guard or charge your Dreadnought in there, and then just throttle the charge so that like only one thing is touching. Then you fight, only one thing fights, and then you pile in. So you can wrap and control. You don't even need to wrap. They can't fall back. Which means they're not even eligible to use the Desperate Breakout stratagem, because they cannot fall back.
Which is good against Tau with the way their rules are written right now, where everything falls back.
Yeah, unless they're battle suits. Don't do that to battle suits. They will shoot you in combat. So yeah, that's what I got.
I was gonna say let's show the people at home what this formation you're talking about. Let's get these guys.
All right, so here's what I'm thinking.
Move. Oh,
so
I missed.
Oof.
One. Oh.
Well, yes, because I've got control of it. Ah. All right. So I'm going to put.
Let me go get him. Yeah.
That's fair enough. If I am deploying Dawn of War, I'll probably put my Impulsor kind of center, because looking at this, the line of sight to him is going to be real touchy. Yeah. And I'd probably actually go more like this, so that they're going to have to work pretty hard to develop a. You know what? Actually, based on this terrain, I'm thinking I'd probably put it over here.
Yeah.
So, So, if they want to get up to it, they're going to have to try to get a line of sight.
Yeah.
Really, only I'm exposing line of sight from the right, from my right flank. Then I'm going to put 5 of the Intercessors. 5 of the Hellblasters in there, and then I'm going to put Asriel. See, I'm not deploying in the order that I would deploy uh, in in the game. I'm just going to try and build my
Yeah.
picture here.
Although
You
I,
know,
what
battle
would you
scribes.
suggest? Because I sometimes find, especially if you're a new player, you mess up your bubble. You don't leave room for your characters, or leave something. So do you prefer the idea of dropping your character first, like at the beginning, and then building around that character, or do you suggest dropping, say, like your blade guard, like the screen unit, and then measure off of them where you put everything?
Um, I usually build the units around him. I build the screen first, and then I put the character in.
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever actually considered doing it the other way. To be perfectly honest, what do you think? There's an advantage to that?
Well, if you are really good at deploying your screens
Oh,
and
did
then
that right
dropping
there?
the characters, you can actually not give away where your death ball is going to be right out the gate. Whereas, like if you're stringing models out and things like that, and you're doing like the noodly thing, because that gives you multiple options potentially of places to drop the character bubble. Whereas if you go out there and the first thing you do is go, here's Ezreal, then your opponent knows, okay, his whole army is going to be within 6 inches of that spot. I deployed my army in response to it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I've played a variant on this list before where I use the Hellblasters and Impulsors, and then Azrael and a little command squad was in a drop pod. So you could move the Impulsors, jump them out, the Hellblasters out, and then drop Azrael in with a lieutenant and a and a command squad to create an instant shooting castle anywhere you wanted it to be. Um, and that is effective. I liked that. So it's okay. We don't really have objectives set out in this game or in this one, but I'm probably gonna set these guys up somewhere over here.
Well, a lot of objectives I've noticed playing in that tournament, looking through the GT book, there are a lot. If you look at a die, right, the number five, right, there are a lot of missions that have some variation on objectives being in the
There.
position they are on the five on a die, where one in the middle, right, and then four around it in some fashion,
Mm-hmm.
and like in a diamond. And usually, because this has got the six, this I feel like these objectives are more like an eighth edition board where there are a lot of six objective missions. So you could sit on two in your deployment zone, and then your opponent had two. Then there was sort of two in the middle. At that tournament I was at, looking at the missions in the GT book, there's five, and you are lucky if there's one in your deployment zone. And there's usually always one in the middle of the board. So you have to be able to get to the middle of the board and fight for the three objectives in the middle of the board, because there's only one in your deployment zone and one in your opponent's deployment zone. At least that's what it looked like to me. Uh, so if you're looking at deployments and you're thinking about deploying, I'd keep that in the back of your head that there are a lot of five objective missions now, which makes it easy for determining if you have more objectives than your opponent because there's an odd number. But they tend to, if you think of what the number of like 5 pips on a die look like, a lot of objective missions look like that.
Okay. So the decision I'm making with the attack bikes here is if I go, I'm going to try and put them back like this because I don't want them to be picked off.
Yeah.
So they're really well screened and shielded. Um, so once again, we're kind of doing this in a vacuum here. So I've basically left one, maybe two lines of sight to the impulsor. Uh, and if they want to try and shoot the impulsor, okay, that's fine. The Hellblasters will jump out of the impulsor into the ruins, which will be within range of Azrael's bubble.
Yeah.
That's my goal. So, and in this, I'm going to go ahead and I can put the Talon Master on the objective, and because he's going to be shielded by the impulsor, and also the. See if I can make sure I'm within 3 inches. Yep, 3 inches of the blade guard vets. So in my apothecary, I'm going to put right over here to make sure that like that. and then Samael is going to go right over here. So how this is going to work, and once again, the Hellblasters are embarked inside the transport. So I've got my infiltrators over here. So they are safe, and they're going to basically move up and consider making a run for the for that objective. And I've got I've got these over here, and they're going to try and do Knock Moon probably first for this table quarter. And if they get shot at, they're going to pop the -1 to hit stratagem.
The smoke screen.
And also they've got this is the squad that has the Helix Gauntlet, so they can ignore the first failed save.
Nice.
Because I paid for that because I had the points. So your first turn move depends on, once again, a lot on your opponents to deploy. But once again, what's the base move for an impulsor?
Isn't it 10?
I think it might be 10.
It's slower than what you think it is.
Yeah, I've got it right here. So your impulsor's base move is 14.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, but once again, they don't fly anymore, right?
Oh,
so what you're gonna do?
It was so much fun.
Is
fly.
It was not fun, and when their shield dome was a 4-up save, yeah.
Well,
so
that's spoken like someone that played Drukhari at the beginning of 9th edition.
Yeah, that's true, right? So there's 7.5 inches of movement, right?
Yep.
And then he's gonna turn. So I've got basically, I've got 6 inches more of movement, and then
in there somewhere.
So in there like that. So he's gonna be able to move up like that. So now my Hellblasters can jump out.
Yeah.
Something like this.
Yeah, because they deploy with... Oh.
And TTS physics, baby. TTS physics.
No, I don't want that.
Okay. I can get it.
3 inches of the tank.
I got line sight. Yep, within 3 inches of the tank. And also I'm thinking, okay, when I do this, this whole bubble is going to move up. So hold tab. So I'll watch my 6-inch move. And depending on, of course, on a couple of other things, I could advance them. But I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move up like this to shore that flank. Azrael probably advance.
Okay.
So he's going to go up like that.
There.
Apothecary. So now Azrael's aura applies to everybody.
Yeah.
And these Hellblasters have line of sight on basically this whole area right here. And I could actually move this guy like this and put that guy like this, and I can get another Hellblaster and depending on how you jump these guys out, you can actually get access to the center of their castle.
Yep.
Or the center of their deployment zone. Like that.
Yeah.
And hey, they're standing in your rocky terrain. That's cool. 2 CP, I get +1 to hit. I'm rerolling ones. Don't care. I'm not interested.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Azrael probably would have put his depending on a couple of other things, I could put my chapter master rerolls on either the Redemptor or these Hellblasters. Probably the Redemptor, because his gun has a better range. Whoops.
We're just moving these guys forward here.
Yep, just move those guys forward.
Oh, there are... Oh,
and then while
My bad.
Yeah, so I got it's like my hand tool back. Okay, and then Samael is going to put chapter master rerolls on the attack bikes. And they're going to move up something like all the way up here.
Yeah.
Right, so they're going to get to this objective.
They get their extra move. They can advance and get their extra couple inches move.
Yeah, so they can move 23 inches on this turn, still shoot with rerolls everything, and they're going to be able to get all the way up here, probably control that objective, and if there's anything over here, they're going to be able to shoot it.
And I noticed on this terrain, there are no windows. That is not common for tournaments. Usually there are windows in the bottom floor, so they would be able to shoot out at everything back here too.
So yeah, so you can either make the decision to advance them to get the 4-up save, or to not advance them, don't get the 4-up save, but tow one of them into Azrael's bubble, depending on what the specific terrain looks like. And then I'm probably going to leave these guys right here.
Yep.
Um,
Maybe spread them out so you get a bigger bubble.
Yeah, I'll spread them out so I get a bigger bubble. But then they're going to probably... I will not retrieve Knockmund with them because I'm going to want to do it with these guys over here, right?
Yep.
And then Samael is going to go up like this.
Yeah, because he's good
next
in combat. So he's a deterrent by doing that.
Yeah. So actually, I'll probably put him behind this terrain. So he's still going to give them... They've got Chapter Master rules. That's fine. I don't need to give the Hellblasters a Captain rule because they've got Azrael. And so I can guard him and set him up for next turn where I can give them Chapter Master rules again so that they can move out further, right? And in this case, my Redemptor has a toe on the objective. I'm controlling the objective. And I've got, with my Talon Master here, I can either spread these guys back out, but I've got from these infiltrators over here, 12 inches.
Yeah.
This whole area is zoned off.
Yeah.
So, yep, this whole area is locked out.
And there's a lot that Talon Master can do because he can give you +1 to hit with a stratagem. If he can see something, he also can.
Yes.
He can.
You can use it for the Ravenwing No Escape. He picks a unit in the command phase, so it's probably not going to be effective on turn 1. You pick a unit in the command phase, and all Ravenwing Corps ignore cover for that against that unit. So yeah. Try not to be, as we discussed before.
Wound as well.
And he's a lieutenant, right? So this whole bubble up here, as I move the Talon Master up, he could shoot out of that window. He's giving all these guys rolls once to wound. So this is a really effective little bubble, and I've been able to push up and project a lot of shooting firepower right into the core. And if they charge into this, okay, they could charge into it. Okay, I'll lose a couple Hellblasters, but I've got a 6-up Feel No Pain from the Apothecary. And if they really commit to it, they'll get into the center here. The Blade Guard are going to countercharge them and tear them apart. So, and also, if they really charge into it, then if they manage to touch the Impulsor after they kill, I can just swing the Impulsor around and potentially block off the movement. So, moving, one of the things that's really important to consider about this type of thing is the order of activations. If someone gets within 1 inch of you, you get activated. So, I can now, I would even consider maybe interrupting with the Impulsor to move it just to block access or pin them so that when it comes time for them to activate again, or if there's another unit that has activated, I've pinned them and they don't get to make their pile-in move because they're already as close as possible to an enemy unit. So this is also another tactic that you'll hear about from Napoleonics called a refused flank. So I've basically refused the left flank and I'm advancing and developing my right flank. So I've got shooting into the core, and I've got my most durable units standing here. So they're going to advance here. It's going to take them a lot of effort to dig me out, and they're going to have to move hard into it. So I'm buried in these trees.
The terrain, right? Yeah, the trees and the rock here. Yeah, the terrain is preventing movement.
I'm buried into the trees. I'm anchored these Blade Guard between the trees, the objective, and this rock that's impassable. So So this is a pretty. And then these guys over here, once they do their Knockmund, if the opponent doesn't think that they've got the resource to shoot over here, they will guerrilla tactics, pull them off the board, and then next turn they'll be available to drop down anywhere I want.
Like over there.
Or just leave them off the board. Honestly, I would leave them off the board and bring them in on turn 3 because I'm going to be able to do Knockmund over here as well.
Yep. Yeah, I always feel like it's important to do Knockmund where you can without being molested by the enemy, where they're going to bother them. And like you said, wait for them to come onto you in the later turns so you can jump in behind them because they're going to have to create gaps to try and get rid of you.
Yeah.
Don't make it hard on yourself.
If they're investing resources in screening, okay, that's stuff that's not coming to you, right? They're eventually going to have to push it forward, and if so, you can just bring your guys on in the middle, and then if they've got their whole deployment zone perfectly screened out, they're probably committing enough stuff that it's not an issue, unless they're like Tyranids or something. In which case, that's probably not the right tactic to use. I would probably pick a different secondary against them.
Yeah.
If they've got enough board presence to screen everything.
Yeah.
So, Okay,
No,
so that's how I kind of envision this. Once again, I think there are um, a lot of options available in this
oh yeah,
list, and there's a couple different ways you can play it based on the opponent you have and what you need to push and present. If you need to push the blade guard into the center of the board to hold a center objective, or be a countercharge threat, because once again, if there's a big line of sight blocking ruin that has walls with no windows in the middle of the board, I'm going to push those blade guard right into the middle.
yep,
They can't get shot because it's line of sight blocked, and they have a charge. They basically control that whole thing, because once again, they move 6, they charge 6, 7, 12 inches around these guys. You don't go anywhere near it, or you're going to get killed. So if I control the center of the board, I'm denying all that. And if I see that option in the matchup and in the mission, that's a great reason to take Oath of Moment.
yep. No, I like that.
So, all right, that's my strategy for this. I think all these units are pretty accessible, with the potential exception of the Ravenwing bikes. I think you or the Black Knight bikes, you can get them on GW's website right now. They're in stock. And you're going to want a Ravenwing Apothecary anyway because it's one of the most powerful units the Dark Angels have.
Well, and
So,
if you need help on how to build one because you have bikes and you don't want to go get it, you go to Thankless Wargaming's website to the blog. I show you how I made mine, where I took just a regular Raven Wing bike sergeant and took some bits from other kits that I had and did him up and then painted him white because apothecaries are traditionally in white armor. And bish bash bosh, you've got yourself a Raven Wing apothecary.
so yeah.
Awesome.
All right, ready to move on?
Yep, that was good. I like that. Oh, I need to get out of there and get back to the notes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, did you finish your hobby projects?
I did. I had kind of a lot. I had some infiltrators I finished. I finished about 13. I think it was actually 13 Terminators. And to be fair,
Oh, wow.
on the Terminators, it was literally like I had to finish all the little iconography, like finish the shields on the guys that had storm shields, finish painting the weapons. You know, if they had robes, finishing the robes and all the little doohickeys that were on them, it was like 80% done. But I needed the motivation to get them done. The Infiltrator squad of 5 I had, I basically just had the armor done. And so I had to go in and do the eyes and the metal, because I like to paint the metal on the top of the power pack and the little vents on the back. Mm-hmm. I like painting those to give them to break up the green a little bit. The belt and the pouches, things like that. And then on the sergeant, his little wrist thing that he's doodling on, going in and painting all the little buttons on there. I like doing that so it just has some color. I've got some of them here with me. So like I got this is the sergeant because he's got the biggest storm shield, which is from the Deathwing Knights kit. But if you have the Dark Angels Veterans kit, which has gotten harder to find, unfortunately, you have this storm shield is in there, and it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I have one of those,
and it fits well on a Terminator. There is another storm shield in there that's really small, but it kind of has the idea of it's like a little buckler that it's just there to, he's just very skilled and he just kind of adaptly blocks things with this little tiny storm shield.
I think that's actually a combat shield. Sorry, as I slide out of frame, I was looking for something. Yeah, I think that's actually a combat shield. So that was a thing in previous editions. It was basically a smaller shield, but it's one of the actually unique things that Dark Angel command squads can take, is they can take a combat shield, which is a +1 armor save and a 5-up invult.
Yep.
And it doesn't take a hand. So you can have a power weapon, like a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and a combat shield. So now it's expensive. I mean, they're 5 points, but like if you do that loadout, then your one firstborn veteran is like 40 points. But if you're trying to drop in from a drop pod behind enemy lines, like Sons of Horus style, plasma. Then yeah, with a combi plasma and a power sword and a combat shield. I mean, I've bought all the stuff to do it. That's what I was trying to find. I have some 3D printed ones, but yeah, it's cool.
The key on that though is if you look at the hand is Terminator sized on the back of it. That's what threw me off.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely bigger than a regular dude, and then I had 2 Lightning Claw guys that go with it, and the Lightning Claws were fun. I liked painting them. So that was the combat squad, and then I don't do a lot of the squad markings on the model. I do them on the bases. So this is the third company marking for Dark Angels. So this is my third squad of Terminators. So they got the third squad marking on the rim, and
interesting. That's cool.
So and I do that for all my squads.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what I got. So what about you, Heath?
Well, I completed 2 squads of Ravenwing attack bikes to a tabletop standard. I'm not going to say they are the details all done, but they've got 3 colors and they're presentable. So I'm gonna move my camera real quick. Hiya, there we go.
Nice. Look at
so just a quick airbrush job. Quick airbrush job, and then I actually really like that the Flesh Tears red contrast paint. I love the color and the saturation that it has. So, and these are interesting. This is the first experiment I've done where about half of the multi-meltas in this unit, 2 of the 6 of the multi-meltas are actually cast with blue stuff out of tack. So I was able to use milliput with little molds out of blue stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, press one in there, and then put the blue stuff in there. Boop. Give it 5 minutes. Take it out. Maybe 10, and then another couple hours to harden, and you got a pretty reasonable facsimile. So
nice.
Yeah, it works decently well on things like multi-meltas. I've seen some YouTube videos where people have a lot more success with it than me, but hey, when from a tabletop distance, it's absolutely passable. So
nice.
And it let me take a bunch of extra bits that I had, like little tiny pieces of bikes, and turn it into a completed unit. Nice. So now I've got 3 squads of 3 multi-melta attack bikes, and behind my fleece over there, which I have up so that the reflection from my screen is in this shot, I was able to put 3 or 4 more multi-meltas on a squadron of land speeders.
Oh, nice.
So I've got, if you want to go full like Sons of Anarchy Ravenwing, then that option exists.
Yeah, I actually pointed it out earlier today. You can do 9 ATV multi-melta bikes and 9 attack bikes with multi-meltas, and it's only like 1,300 points.
Yeah, the Long War guys talked about, like, for 1,000 points you can get three squads of 3 multi-melta speeders and 3 squads of 3 multi-melta attack bikes.
Oof, brutal.
It's crazy. Yeah, and there was a list from I think an event in Poland a few months ago that we talked about a couple shows ago that did that. It was like pure Ravenwing, everything was flying, everything was multi-meltas, and it was just like, show up with armor, I dare you.
Yeah.
Oh, so, but anyway, yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did.
All right.
You want to say I could do a little bit more on them, but yeah.
That's good. That counts. All right. So for next month, I mentioned this being kind of controversial, and I say this because it is sort of outside the realm of gaming, but real world effects gaming sometimes. I would like to comment that I know there are a lot of Russian 40K players, and you might go, well, why are you guys, you're getting this, you're alien. Like, this is not a comment on individual people anywhere. This is looking at the governments, right? The governments are getting in the way of, like the Russian people, Ukrainian people want to get together and play some 40K. That's what it's all about, right? We don't want to be fighting a real war. We want to play with our war dollies. And unfortunately, people who have a lot of money invested in violence don't want us to play war dollies, and that's not cool.
I just, in case people listening to the show don't know, I am a retired United States military veteran. I retired as a chief petty officer from the United States Navy. This is a cause I care about. So I am willing to support this. As a matter of fact, what I'm willing to do, and I haven't told Bailey about this, is any of our listeners who are interested in also supporting, if you can provide objective evidence that you have provided some sort of charity relief to an organization that supports Ukraine, I will personally, out of my own funds, match that up to a total of $500.
Nice.
So that is a commitment I'm willing to make.
That's pretty
So
sweet.
I'll comment. Make sure I comment on the YouTube video this gets posted up, and if you listen to it on one of the other podcast aggregators, feel free to go to the Dankless Wargaming channel, find it, and you can generally get a hold of me there. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do. So as I said, we have no issues with and in fact, a lot of love for the people of Russia. The government of Russia is is not on the right side of history.
No.
So, they said the people of Ukraine are in a bad spot. Their lands have been invaded, and they have understandably taken some umbrage with that. So, we're willing to provide medical supplies, food, water, basic infrastructure, basic needs to help alleviate that suffering. So that is a good cause.
And I don't want people to think that I'm like heartless in a sense, but I live a lot more, on a personal level, I live a lot more paycheck to paycheck than Heath does. But I will look at my own personal finances and see how much I can do, and I plan on contributing either through the website or someplace else. But
please feel no obligation. I said I am in a place of privilege. I said I'm retired military. I have a pension, and I have a fairly I do okay for myself. And I have no children. I have a dual income, no kids. So I'm in a position where I acknowledge the fact that I have the privilege that I can make a statement like that. So whatever you can, even if it's post on Facebook, say we're here for you. Go to Ukrainian creators on YouTube, follow their channels, subscribe, do all those kind of things you can. So and it matters. The international coalition that of NATO has provided is really it's really unprecedented, the level of support that the rest of the civilized world is providing. So, hooyah.
All right. So get on there, get in, and make sure to comment. Let us know. Heath will match you up to $500. So let's get it done.
Hooyah.
And don't forget to order some cool minis. Help them out. So that talking about community, right? Community interaction section. So it's a nice segue. So looking at our comments from the last couple of episodes, looking at last month's podcast as well as the Trey Andre interview. Chris June came in with his comment about Tau because he's talking about smart missile spam. Will do an average of 10 to 11 damage in a turn with proper buffs to a dreadnought. Right, so I'm assuming that's accounting for Duty Eternal and some other things. So I forget what we were talking about, but he obviously is like, yeah, Tau will just... Oh, Charlie was talking about... I think Charlie was talking about how he really wasn't that worried about Tau, and maybe Chris is commenting on me like, they're pretty nasty.
I haven't had a chance to look at the Tau book or play against him, so I'm not sure. I'll take Chris's word for it.
He grinds.
You know,
he grinds a lot of games, and if he refuses to play a codex because he's like, I'm done, like, it's because it is just not fun.
So I mean, I don't think dreadnoughts are the profile that you need to worry about shooting into Dark Angels. It's not dreadnoughts, it's Deathwing Terminators.
Yep.
So
Alistair Glenn, sorry if I butchered the name, but that's how I figured it out. So great interview, guys. We'll be listening to the next episode for sure. So thank you. Hopefully you'll be listening to this one here fairly soon. I got a kind of a backlog of videos to do, but I'm going to try and knock them out this week. Scott Staub's back. I did get him his package sent. He has an Outrider on the way in the mail. Should get to him later next week. He says, one of your best episodes to date. Thank you very much, Scott. You guys really delved into the meat of his lists and the tactics. Very helpful for Dark Angels players. So he's talking about the Charlie Andre interview. He also said, I also wanted to add that I like new graphics, and it seems that you've made some improvements in equipment as well. Good job. Well, thank you on that again. We moved over to Vinci Resolve from Lightworks. So I've been trying out new things.
Also, Bailey got a computer that has some firepower behind it. So
and some good internet.
That can actually run DaVinci, yeah.
Yeah. So things have improved there. Then to Kiwi, good podcast. My first listen, but it'll definitely be more of them. Awesome, thank you. Hopefully you come back and listen to this one.
Welcome aboard.
And then I think they also asked any chance you have access to the list Charlie where it was referencing. I think I talked a little about this in the comments.
I did jump on that comment and post the list for his LVO list in one of those comments. So it is there.
Awesome.
That's something we'll try and do better in the future. If we're talking about a list really in depth, we'll with this one in this episode as well, we'll put graphics up in posts that show what the lists are. So
and the big key, at least for me on that, is that Heath cares enough about looking at the list that he pays for BCP, so he's paying to have that access. And so, like, if he's then giving out for free, he's like I feel like it's like kind of almost undermining the Best Coast guys. So it's like, if you really care about the list, it's not a big subscription fee. Like, if you care that much, help them out, because
it's $50 a year.
Yeah.
It's $50 a year, I think. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, we're talking about it in depth. We can probably commit to trying to make, once again, we're not providing access to literally everything, but we go through and we talk about it. I think we can put it up on the screen, so it's fine.
All right, that works then. And then Sebastian Pask says, "Great episode, thank you. Hopefully you come back, listen to the next one." All right.
Yeah.
Any final comments, Heath?
No, that's good. This is a long one. This is a chonky boy of an episode. So, thanks for sticking around if you got to this far.
Yep.
It's chonky like my cat.
Yeah. All right then. So, thank you all for listening to this month's episode of the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Got it right this time. Our next episode will be out sometime in the next few weeks, because we're having a special guest interview next weekend. And then we'll have a regular scheduled sort of end of the month into the start of the next month episode for March, which might have... the timing of March will be weird, because I'm going to Adepticon at the end of the month.
Oh, right.
And I will
we'll sort it out. We'll sort it out.
Yeah, we'll get it figured out, and we'll have some Adepticon
we'll figure it out.
Stuff. So please comment below if you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on your preferred podcasting service. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music. Until next time, I'm Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
This is Heath with Table War Hawaii.
Stay loyal, Angels.